Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ready Status podcast. Hanging out with you guys. We're going to get into a lot of fun stuff today, but welcome to the first episode and hanging out here with my beautiful wife, Alisa. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. So, you guys, listen, if you guys have ever listened to any of our podcasts before, welcome back. It's been a long time since we've been out of studio, since I've been out of studio one-on-one with you guys, but now hanging out with you guys with Alisa. But one of the things that I want to chat with you guys about real quick, we did not take down any of the GT. So if you're new here, I used to do a podcast called GTW, which stood for Go to War. I also did a podcast called GTW XL, which was with my good friend Adam Smith, who is a Green Beret. I also did a podcast called Drop the Hammer. These podcasts were all very different. They had very different mindsets associated with them, very, very different episodes of my life associated with them. So I would strongly suggest before you jump into the Ready Status podcast with us, that maybe you go back and listen to a few of those first, right? So if you go back into the podcast list, we've marked them all. If you go into anything that says GTW, those are GTW podcasts. The GTW XL with Adam, they say GTW XL with Adam. Drop the Hammer says Drop the Hammer on it. But I would say go back to GTW. GTW was a mindset podcast. We're going to talk about some mindset stuff here. GTXL was like an extended version of that where I got to talk deeper mindset and leadership stuff with Adam. And then Drop the Hammer was very business focused. So we're going to do a combination of those things here. I don't know that I'll touch base on any of the stuff I went through in the GTW podcast and all that stuff, or we will. But yeah, we're really excited about this and what we're doing here, and we're going to go through like, what is this podcast? Why are you doing it? What are you working on? What have you been working on? All that good stuff. But I want to start. So we just finished up a project, and today, as we're shooting this episode, was our last day in this project. And we've been working with this company for three and a half, almost 4 years. We've known the owner for a really long time, really great guy. In fact, if you go back to the Drop the Hammer episodes, there is an episode in there with Brandon James. He's the owner of Brandon J Roofing. And so you should go back and listen to that. It was really great. But kind of in your words, like, how would you sum up what we've been doing over the last 3 years, maybe just specifically the last 2 years of it?
Yep. I would say it's been a crazy adventure.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of growth, I think, on both our parts. And then that's individually. And then it's been a lot of growth inside the company as well, as far as the volume of revenue that we've done, or that we, as in Brandon J, like it's been fun. I describe it as that. The culture there is amazing. I'm mixed emotions at the moment because today was like our last day in the office. So I'm sad because of all the relationships that we've built there, but I'm very excited to see like where they go from here. Their growth will continue. It was just really fun, I would say. Very hard, extremely hard work. If you've seen anything about Brandon J, you know, the culture is very, I don't know, there's a very high standard at Brandon J. And so living that and being an example as the leader that we both were in the company, living that and helping others grow through it is a extremely difficult and rewarding process. Yeah. So that's kind of how I would sum it up.
Yeah. It challenged the whole journey, that whole 3.5 or whatever years. I would say started out where, you know, like we started kind of mentoring Brandon, and then like it almost like full circled into like him mentoring us a bit. Right. And so it was really cool. It was just a really great, like time of us all working together, really challenging one another to grow, continue to up level your standard and just really become a new human or different human. And we had a lot of challenges in the inside, and we learned a lot along the way. I mean, we were part of something when we first started working with it, that started at 10 million. And as we depart today, their last year they did 82, 84, somewhere in there, over 80 million. Right. So it's like, not many people have been in that space, especially at the leadership level. So what, like if you had to say something like that, what's the main thing that you would take away from it? What's the one thing that you really learned from it or that you got from it? I know you poured a lot of yourself into it, but like, what's something that you really take away from it?
I take away something personal for myself, which is like growth in my leadership journey. So that's like the biggest thing that I took away. I always, at Brandon J, we have a leadership meeting every Friday. And in that leadership meeting, we go through what are we grateful for, one thing we love about ourselves, and then our biggest why. So why we're doing what we're doing in life. And my why is always leading by example and like showing up for everyone that I come in contact with, regardless who they are. Someone sees me at the grocery store, I want to be leading by example. I want them to see something from me and take it and be better themselves. Yeah. That works with our relationship together. That works with anyone that we lead inside Brandon J or outside of Brandon J, regardless, everywhere. That's my biggest why. So I've known that like my entire life. And I tell everyone that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. That's why I wake up, lead by example. And really like coming into Brandon J, I have led people before. And I think like, you know, you come in thinking like, I've been a leader. I am a leader. I know how leadership looks like. And really for me, I was able to really grow myself and then the team under me also growing too. Yeah. So it's kind of like two parts. Like I'm learning and growing myself, which is, challenged me individually, but also the people under me are seeing me go through the challenges and they're growing with me and they're up leveling themselves while I continue to up level too. So that's like the biggest thing I've taken away, like just really growing my leadership journey and being an example for those that I led there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what about you?
Well, I resonate a lot with that. Yeah. Right. Because, I mean, you guys, if you guys have never listened to us, we're going to get into our background and what we've done and why you should listen to us and maybe, and if it's a good fit for you. But I learned a lot about myself through this whole journey too, right? Because I had opened, operated, ran, scaled several companies before. And a lot of like the way I was showing up, I thought was productive. And then sometimes it was, but also like sometimes it wasn't. And it was really good to have like Brandon and some of the other leaders really just push back on some things and be like, hey, that might have worked before, or that might work in this situation, but here's why it won't work here. Right. And I think it can be challenging in cultures like that where the standard is so high, right? It literally is so high that like, you're constantly wondering, like, if I'm not leveling up, somebody's coming to take my job. Like somebody is going to keep leveling up behind me. So I can't really be complacent because if I do, then, somebody's going to take it. Right. So, it's hard to work in a space like that because you do have to constantly be focused on self-development, bettering yourself, thinking about what could I be more efficient on or better at or whatever, and just continue to grow like what you were talking about. So for me, like my biggest takeaway from the whole thing was just like really understanding that certain situations call for certain types of leadership and other situations call for a different type of leadership, and really understanding the levels of leadership and learning what it's going to take to lead at those levels, which I'm sure we'll talk about on a future podcast. But it was super good on that side of it. So yeah. Do you have anything else to add there?
It was a fun adventure.
It was a fun adventure.
I had a lot of fun.
So grateful for it.
Yes.
I think that's the big takeaway of all of it. And we're going to elaborate. We don't want to keep you guys too much in the dark, but we'll definitely elaborate more on what we did there and what the company did and, all that fun stuff. And if you guys are listening to us, but you're not listening to him, you should definitely go listen to Brandon's podcast. If you put in WIT in the Spotify or Apple, wherever you go, WIT stands for whatever it takes. I did a few episodes with Brandon over there too at the beginning to help get WIT started. You guys can go over there and listen to those. You can listen to what he's up to now. He's got a lot of words of wisdom and things you guys could go check out over too. But back to us. Give everybody, like, if they don't know you and they don't know your background and they don't know what you've done, give them a breakdown on who you are and what you do and what you love to do and your specialists and all that stuff, and tell them why they should listen to you.
I started at a roofing company 4 days after I graduated from college. Before that, I mean, I had a few jobs. I think I had 3 jobs working side by side with an entrepreneur in those 3 businesses. They're obviously small businesses. One was a restaurant, one was a food truck, and then one was an attorney. So I really got some work experience in those 3 businesses. But then 4 days after I graduated from college is where I started, like I would say, my first real job. And that was at a roofing company. When I started there, I was young. I didn't really know anything. I had just graduated with a business degree with a concentration in accounting. When I came to roofing, I did none of that. So anyway, I had that degree. I started there and I worked side by side with the owner. When I started, it was just myself and the owner in the office, and we were at 5 million the first day I started there. So they were generating revenue at 5 million. And then basically what I did there was just take stuff off the owner's plate. Like whatever he was doing, I could see that's not his strength and I can do it better. And so I would just start taking things every week. I would just take something new, let me do it, I'll make it better. And I just kept doing that. I won't get into too much of the details, but basically we grew and scaled that company from 5 to 60 million in revenue. And along with everything that goes along with that, adding people, leadership with those people, creating processes and procedures for those people, and just growing it from there. Yeah. So that really was like my first growth experience, revenue wise and personally. And so then after that, after I left there, I joined with you, doing consulting for contractors kind of all over the US and helping them implement processes and procedures to grow and scale their businesses. And then, like you said, Brandon J was one of our clients at the time. And then we engaged with him to kind of work inside that business full time as part of an agreement. So kind of that's my experience and background. I would say the things that I'm best at are leadership, growing and developing myself and being a leader for those around me. But that ties back to my why and why I wake up every day. So that's one of the things. But I would say employee experience, customer experience, HR, finance, anything related to accounting, numbers, finance, and then the last piece is like processes and procedures, and that goes with any department. So yes, I love operations and what all that entails, but I also love growing and developing the other departments too, which in the roofing space would be like sales and production. So that's who I am. That's my skill set. No, I have a lot of things in that operations geared mindset that I've learned and grew through in the last 12 years of doing it. But I always have things to learn too. So I don't know it all, but I do know some things for people that might be starting out. The other thing separate from business wise is I worked with entrepreneurs for a long time since I was 16 when I first started my very first job. Like I said, I had 3 really solid jobs, worked side by side with the entrepreneur, and now I'm married to you, an entrepreneur as well. So I do have a lot of experience with what that relationship looks like, both as a marriage and inside the business. So I have a lot of, I feel like I have a lot to offer there. Just with the experience that I have. Again, I don't know it all. I never want to act like I know it all, but I do know some things.
You know a lot about a lot.
From the experience. And that's all I'll ever talk about is what I've learned through my experience. I won't talk about anything else other than that. So, but what about you? Tell us a little bit about you.
This is just an intro to you guys today to give you kind of a background on what we've been doing and why we're doing this podcast and what we're building next and like all the things. And we're going to get into the intricacies of like what she's really great at, which she's expanded on a little bit. But like before I get into like my background, most of you guys know it if you've listened to us before, but I'll give you the rundown here in just a second anyway. But, the really cool dynamic that you're going to get from this podcast with both of us being on the podcast is I'm a visionary. I'm a builder. I like to build new things. I like to start new things. I like to get into middle of things that are going south for people or not going well for people and help them really get clear about what they need to be doing and delegate off all the things that they shouldn't be doing and help them get clear about what that is. And then really to help them figure out like what's causing whatever is happening right now, good, bad, or indifferent. How do we repeat more of the actions in the goods and eliminate more of the ones that are not creating good? And just really help them through that cycle of it. Whereas Alisa is more of what we call an integrator, right? Integrator, implementer, maybe combination of both. Her specialty is like, okay, so like once the vision is clear and the entrepreneur is clear on what they want to build, she is literally the person that engineers and puts in all of the backside support, systems, processes, procedure, people, all of that stuff, right? So I would say like, most entrepreneurs are like the crazy pilots in the fighter plane, and she's the person on the ground who is calm, cool, and collected, keeping the planes in the air, holding the things together, things of that nature. And every single successful entrepreneurship venture business that I've ever been involved in, the two of us have ever been involved in, that are doing really, really well, there is always a dynamic of visionary, integrator, implementer. Without these, the visionary is going to feel really frustrated. They're going to feel like they can't seem to make progress on the regular, and vice versa. Without somebody to supply the vision or the clarity or the whatever, the integrator, implementer team in general is going to feel very disconnected, like they don't have clarity on what they're trying to build. They'll go build whatever the hell you want them to build, but if they don't have clarity on what you're trying to get them to build, they're not going to do it, right? So it's just going to feel discombobulated. Like, the guys that are wired like me, some of the challenges that we face regularly in our relationship are like, she needs all the details, right? And I live in the world of like, I have a really cool idea, and usually I start to cast the idea. We've been married for a while, so she knows now, but a lot of times I'll go into flow state with what the idea is. And she does a really good job being patient through all of that and then getting to the end of it and being like, do you have questions? I have questions. I have questions about what you just said. And then oftentimes she'll ask me a bunch of questions, and a lot of questions that she asks will end up being, well, that's not a great idea after all, right? Because now we're getting into the nitty gritty and it doesn't make sense. But sometimes she'll ask enough questions where it's like, this is a really good idea and we should definitely do this. She just needs more details to help build the thing. So we're going to get into all of that in this podcast. Like, I can tell you're itching already, which is awesome. But we're going to get into all these details, not today necessarily, but in several podcast episodes that we do down the road, so that you guys will be able to see how this works and all that stuff. But let me give you like a very quick breakdown of me. You guys can go online. You can Google my name, John Paramore, .com literally, and read stuff. You guys can Google me. You can read good stuff and bad stuff and all things in between. People love to talk. So that's fine. But I've been an entrepreneur for 26 years. My 26th year this year, I have built, I have grown, I have scaled, I have sold, I have helped other people build, scale, sell companies across the United States. I've also messed a lot of things up. I've definitely been through bankruptcy. I've been through a divorce. So on and so on, right? So what you're going to get from me is like a lot of years of experience of like a lot of the things that I did wrong and some of the things I did right. And it just so happens that some of the things that I now know from doing this for as long as I have, I'm 48 years old, so I'm also going to date myself there. I've got some experience and some things, right? I've tried to do more things than most people have ever tried to do in their life, right? I've literally been like, this is a really great idea. I ran it into the ground, not a great idea, and then like picked up and done it again, right? So that's what you're just going to get. Rawness, truth. We kind of tell things how it is. Alisa's a little bit more polished at that than myself, but sometimes we're just going to let it all out here, right? So what would you add to that? Anything?
I would add, you kind of already said this at the beginning, but just like your skill set and kind of expanding on that. You did a very brief introduction of who you are. I think you're a lot more than that, which you'll probably hear throughout this, but being very creative, branding and vision are like your strong suits. So I think, that's going to be really, really cool. Yeah.
So let's talk about this, like what we're doing here, right? So we put a lot of thought. There's still a lot of thought and intention behind this specific podcast. I didn't want to just jump in and do another podcast and whatever the case may be. this brand and what we're building and what we're going to build, and we're going to be taking you guys through the journey, is a culmination of a lot of life events, a lot of experience, a lot of things we've seen and done and whatever, put into a podcast, but also put into a business. So Ready Status for us is we come in contact with entrepreneurs all the time that come up against this cliche phrase that's being thrown around a lot in the internet right now called burnout. And a lot of it has to do because they're not, at the beginning, they're not as ready as they think they are to start the business. They get involved in the business. They get thrown a whole bunch of haymakers. They get smoked, and they're really not sure what to do with it. And so they're not doing a lot of self-development work. They're not ready, right? And so a lot of what we're going to be doing in Ready Status is getting people ready, helping people to get ready. Like, it doesn't matter if you started it and you're having trouble, or if you're thinking about starting it, and you just need help, right? Or where do I start? How do I get ready? So on and so on. The second part of Ready Status is you got to be ready. So once you get ready, you got to be ready. And so being ready is like already being in the process of doing the thing, having a pretty good flow. Like what we talked about a little bit this morning before we did this podcast was like, you can really force your way to about $10 million in business. And then things get complicated, meaning like, not like they weren't already complicated, but they get more complicated. Like, you're going to need systems, processes, procedures. You're going to need a lot of SOPs. You're going to need infrastructure, whatever. That's the be ready part of the Ready Status. It's like, okay, we're going to get you ready to build something on a foundation that is really, really solid. And then you're going to be ready with all the systems, processes, and procedures, so on and so on. And then you're going to stay ready. And that's the third facet to this Ready Status, is staying ready. So what that means is, like, we look at guys like the company we just worked with in Brandon. Brandon is the epitome. There's other guys that I'm going to definitely talk about as we go through this thing, but Brandon is the epitome of stay ready. He knows he's got to get up in the morning. He's got to do his routine. He's got to follow the same flow. It doesn't matter how he feels about it. If it's boring, if it's monotonous, it's whatever. He can't ever abandon the things that actually got him to where he is today. He just stacks up on them, right? So he definitely went through a phase of getting ready. He definitely went through a phase of be ready. He definitely stays in a space of absolutely all the time ready to go, right? So staying ready. And that's really what it is. And that's essentially what creates the Ready Status, right? we've got a lot to talk about it and whatever. And a lot of what we're going to go through here on this podcast is going to be around this specific topic. We're going to break it down on a lot of different levels, talk to a lot of different people. You're going to hear a lot from us. What do you have to add to that? Or what would you stack on top of that?
Mostly because we've been around entrepreneurs, and you are an entrepreneur, and we've done that for so long that this mostly applies to them, but it also applies to literally everyone. You don't have to own a business for this. You can be in college, or you can be the wife of an entrepreneur, or you can be an employee, or you can be a leader. You can be whatever. This applies to everyone because we both know from going through this ourselves, you can be a success in business and the rest of your world is crumbling. And so we want, that's really what we want to prevent high level people from going through. We've been through there. We have experience on some things, and we want to talk about that. But it applies really to everyone. So don't think if you're not an entrepreneur, this is not the podcast for you, because it does apply with all of those different stages, with, getting ready and being ready and staying ready. There's a level of self-development within yourself, which goes into this exactly what we're talking about, that has to be done at every single stage. So you can build a business, like you said, to 10 million, like you say, a bull in a china closet, or like I've always said, the wild, wild west. You can get there. You can be really, some people are really, really great at sales, and they start a business and then they feel they're in over their head. We want to prevent that from happening by being able to take them through this process, which we're calling Ready Status. So I would just make sure that everyone knows it's open to everyone. You need it. Everyone needs it. It's not something that you just can avoid and also operate at a high level. Everyone needs to go through the process, regardless what you're doing in your business or if you're not even in a business at all, you should go through this process because it sets you up for everything in life, not just business. It sets you up for everything again. So that's what I would add. It's applicable to everyone.
Yeah. I would say the only caveat or thing that I would add to that is like, it's open to everyone who's willing.
Yes.
Right. And that's the key, right? Is because none of this is easy. Right. I would say, like, looking back on my own journey, and you could the same, like, getting ready, being ready, staying ready is a constant process. It is a constant process. And, I'm going to talk about some life things that I've been going through and whatever on some later podcasts and whatever, and how it's challenged me to look at some things of like, damn, I'm not ready for this thing. I thought I was doing the work here, but I actually was not. And so there adverse consequence, so that I actually have to start and I think that's going to be the thing for a lot of people is this process of ready status and be ready, get ready, stay ready is a life journey. It's a freaking life journey. And there's going to be times in your life where something shows up unexpected, where maybe you weren't ready for that thing. And so now you got to start the process over again. You got to get ready, and then you'll become ready, and then you'll stay ready. Right. So I think that's the important thing to really understand about the mindset piece and all of this is like, this is a constant evolution. It's a constant journey. You're not going to go through the process of ready status and then arrive. Right. We're just going to give you a lot of tools, a lot of information, a lot of data, and listen, when we started doing this, one of the things I said to Alisa was, I was like, when we do these podcasts, it has to be practical and tactical. Like, I want to make sure we're not talking high level. They walk away from the podcast and it's just all theory and, whatever. So literally outside of this episode, every episode we do going forward, there will be specific things that it's like, hey, if you guys are on board with this and you want to do it, here's what needs to be done. Here's the practice of this. So that's kind of like ready status as a whole, like what we're doing. This is going to evolve quickly. Number one, and number two, there's a lot coming to this, you guys, like a lot coming to this, right? Like one of the things I'll just kind of let you in. One of the things we're doing right now is writing a book. So, and we're going to talk about ready status in the book. We're going to talk about building and scaling businesses. We're going to talk about all that stuff, right, is going to be in there. And it's going to be like a manual for you guys to, we don't give a crap about making any money on a book. But what we care about is we want to get this out to you guys in a form that's like, you guys can get into the chapters every week, no matter how many times you go through them, whatever stage of life that you're in, you're going to be able to get into the chapters every week. And there's like workbook stuff in there that you can do. That's like, hey, I'm going through something right now. This chapter applies to the thing you're going through. I'm going to get in here, read through the thing. I'm going to do the work and watch it resolve. Right. And I think that's going to be, what's really cool. It was funny because you went into the old GTW stuff this week and you sent me one of my old podcasts, and it was so cool. Like, just telling you guys, like, sometimes some of the podcasts I did in the past, I was like me talking to my future self or to my past self. And it's crazy how applicable it is to the stuff that we're doing today. But I say that because, that's what we want the book to feel like for you guys. Like an evolution of yourself. Like today you might go through the book and you're like, this applies to me today. And then like 3 years down the road, you'll go through something else in life. You'll change again in life. And then you'll be like, oh, like this thing applies to me. And now I need to do this thing. So yeah.
So you can listen to them over and over.
And over again. And
like John said, the process repeats itself over and over.
It does.
And like he said, to start that was like, it isn't for everyone. It does apply to all people, but those people have to be willing to do the work. Yep. That's like the one factor that matters for anyone going through the process is you just have to be willing to keep showing up and doing the work. Yep. Which is why it relates so well to business, because in business, you just have to keep showing up. It's like, we're just going to keep showing up and we're going to keep doing the necessary things that we need to do. And we're going to be in a ready status. And then there may, like you said, be something that shows up that we've never seen before. And now we're going to start over. And we're going to go through the ready status. So at any given time, you may have, and we do personally have these levels where we're like, okay, we're ready here, but we're not ready here. We have to get ready on these 5 levels levels, but these 5 levels were already in a ready status. So it's just a constant evolution.
Yeah.
And then as you grow and as you learn, more things get added to it. And then you just repeat the ready status process over.
Yeah. I just want to challenge you guys as we start to wrap up today's episode and start to get into some of the nuts and bolts of things next week. I want to challenge you guys, like, as you enter into this space with us and this journey with us, it's going to be best suited for you to live in a space of like, avoid the words I already know. I've already been through this. I've already heard something like this. I already know how to do that thing, whatever. Avoid that as much as you can, because some of this stuff I learned by staying in a space of like, I think I know, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to listen or go through this thing again, and found out in that process that I actually, what I thought I knew, I did not know. So I'm just going to challenge you guys to stay in that space of what I think I know, but I might not know. If you just stay right there, Brandon, circling back to Brandon, he always calls it staying curious, being open-minded. But if you just stay in that space right there, I think I know, but I'm not sure I know. Even if you go through it and you find out you did know, great. But I can promise you most of the stuff that we're going to be breaking down was taught to us by some incredible people, things we learned on our own along the journey, whatever. And they might not be what they appear. So I'm just going to, put that out there. So,
and if you do know, you still can learn.
You still can learn.
So it's a benefit to go through it anyway.
Yeah. So we're excited as hell to go through this journey with you guys and this podcast with you guys and this evolution. And I promise you what's on the horizon of what we're building has not been done before. We did a lot of deep diving in the research just to make sure that this vision and what we're trying to do I don't know, man. It was just something really unique that we talked about for a long time. And we're just like, let's do it. Let's just do it. Like that next evolution of life is let's just do this thing. So we have some really cool stuff to bring to you guys. We're excited about it. We're super excited about it. And we'll definitely keep you guys more updated. But yeah, welcome to Ready Status. And we're excited for what's going to happen. And we'll see you guys soon. Anything else you want to add before we roll?
I'm all set.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care. See ya.